Let's see what else I do. Oh, I started my Mind Goblin series on the Twitch channel where I played the Dishonored under the rule no quick loads or loads of any kind. Honestly, um, and I came away with some more understanding about the way those Dishonored games work. One, physics does exist in those games, and if you drop somebody from a couple feet up, they just die, which was frustrating when I dropped a target by accident and he just broke his neck on the floor. That was stressful. I almost threw up, but that's fine.
So, what was your stated particular goblin with this series?
So Dishonored specifically it's a stealth game that has what is essentially a kill tracker named Chaos, which is time spotted, uh, enemies killed, etc. Right? That has a morality effect, and will, like, if you go really high chaos, it'll change the levels to be more filled with enemies and darker, and have like a more what do you call
Aggressive?
it? Pardon?
Aggressive?
Yeah, it'll be more aggressive and it'll have like a darker ending.
Okay.
Right? Which to myself and many players becomes well, you gotta ghost it. You can't kill anyone. Never get seen. If you do get seen, run away. You have to do the non-lethal variations on every target, etc. Which is a horribly miserable way to play the game, and it's not fun. And 80-90% of that game's tools and mechanics are built around at least killing people sometimes, right?
So it's not a human revolution balance?
No. Human Revolution was like so I did some digging on this. Human Revolution was built to stealth it or non-violence it, like from the whole way through, except for those boss fights, which were made by that different company, right? And you can feel that, like your melee takedown, that's like a stealth one, is actually faster than the lethal one. You get more experience in Deus Ex Human Revolution if you do non-lethal, etc. In Dishonored, they actually made most of the game without any non-lethal options in the game at all, only to discover upon being interviewed, people would ask them like, "Oh, can you beat the game without killing anybody?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, you totally can." And then added like non-lethal takedowns and such to the game.
Oh, that's a bad way to do that. Okay.
So like 80-90% of the game is like, yeah, you can totally, like, lethal solutions to problems. But there is a tooltip, which I bring up every time I take up a screenshot of this tooltip, which is like, try not to kill anybody or you'll get a darker ending and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And so it is overstated, right? So going through it under the rule of no reloads caused me to immediately get spotted and have to kill people, which caused me to forget how to breathe for about 90 seconds.
In the game?
No.
Okay. I see.
And also the stat. This is probably out of like a pure design thing. This is probably the most frustrating thing. The achievement for not killing anyone doesn't count the tutorial, but at the end of the tutorial, you still get a ghost check mark or not. And the reason for that is because the tutorial has two guys that are killed by off-screen rats that you can't interact with, so that counts as deaths. But it's like, but yeah, so I screwed up the stealth and didn't do the quick load, and that caused me to forget how to do a breathing. And that was bad. And then a couple more of those. That was very frustrating.
Okay, are you sure?
Are
you sure this series is a good idea?
It's a great idea.
Okay.
And then screwed up a bunch of times. Had gotten one insanely bad situation where, upon being discovered and killing 2 to 3 guards, I alerted 2 to 3 more guards, and then upon killing them, alerted 2 to 3 more. You know, that kind of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
thing.
Dominoes.
But the absolute worst was when I non-lethally subdued and tranked the target and was literally walking towards the area to do the non-lethal ending of the level and saw an item pickup and went to place down the target to pick up the item, only for the target to slide off the ledge I was on and fall like 6 feet and hit the ground and break his neck. And a big "target killed" shows up on the screen. And I'm like,
of physics.
Even if I was not a person with OCD or some form of neuroses, most people would reload that because that's like a unintentional, legitimate accident.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Right? But
now,
I didn't. Right? I kept it going. I did not reload, which that one almost made me barf. Got real nauseous. And then I got to the end of the stage. Wait, hold on. I got to the end of the stage, and I had been seen like 10 times, and I had gotten into 5 or 6 fights where I killed everyone, and I screwed up and dropped the target, and then I get the mission complete screen, and it says 12 people killed, low chaos. And this is when I started to scream at the game in anger at how badly it characterizes its own system. Like I even got an achievement for killing a percentage of guards in the stage. And it still said, yeah, low chaos. Like, the way that it is portrayed to you is like, be careful. Be careful. Be sneaky. Don't kill anybody. But the reality of it is like, yeah, no, just you can take care of any mistake. The only way you're going to get the high chaos thing is if you just start walking forward and slashing at anyone in your way like it's an action game.
Okay. So still trying to, after you murder everybody, going back into sneaking giving you low chaos.
It's the difference between, if the Metal Gear analogy, it's the difference between getting a mountain lion and crocodile.
Sure.
Right? It's like, did you attempt to hide behind a wall and you just killed anyone who found you? Fine. Did you just walk in every room and just spray it down the instant you got in there? Then. But it's not portrayed that way. Like, this whole argument about the chaos system is literally because of 2 poorly written tooltips.
So, my question then is, if this entire stealth section is an afterthought that was not the way the game was designed.
Lethality. It was always designed to be stealthy.
But right, but like stealth kills, not openly like murdering people and whatnot. Sure. So, when you fuck up and you have to be lethal about it, does that then not make the game more quote unquote fun because you're playing it the way they intended you to before they thought about that tooltip?
It's weird. There's a morality thing where basically the magic man who gives you your magic powers is like, yeah, kill people, fuck shit up. And the situation becomes darker and the city gets in a worse state the more horribly mean and lethal you are to people. But the game does want you to do this shit. It wants you to fuck around and blow people up and rewire electric fences so the guards walk through them and get disintegrated and, all that shit. But it is actually just legitimately about that very first tooltip that says, like, be careful not to kill people or else you'll get a darker ending.
And because of that, you can't have fun in those
and
moments.
and what it's not telling you is that the second mission in the game has over 100 guards in it, and that you can kill 19.9% of all people in a level and still get low chaos. So you actually have a leeway of something like 25 to 40 guards, which is absurd, which is totally absurd. And to get the high chaos ending, apparently you need to kill more than 50% of all enemy.
Okay.
And it's like, that's not what it's. I don't know if I can find it.
Well, yeah,
So
because look, if you walk forward through Undertale, killing everything in your way, you're not gonna get the genocide ending.
Yeah.
You know, it takes more than that. So, if you're just being lethal, and then I suppose if there's a dark ending to get, then the game's like, well, then you gotta fucking earn it. You're doing some callous shit. But like,
Yeah,
is there a low chaos ending variant that is also
Yes.
okay? All right.
There's only the two. There's the high and low. So I found the actual tutorial. Here it is. This is the entirety of this thing that surfaced to you. It just says chaos. Your actions affect the city. A high number of deaths results in more rats and weepers, different reactions from your allies, and darker final outcomes. But what is a high number of deaths is going to depend on what stealth game you're playing. And you won't know what a high number of deaths is until you reach it, right? Like, you won't know it's a high number unless you beat the level and reach it.
Okay.
Which means people that really want to get it low will reach the end of every level at 0. And then we'll never know that it's actually up to
Super
like 30
high.
or 40 or 50.
Are there
Right.
NPCs?
Yeah, there's civvies, and if you kill a civvy, it's like it actually juices the system like really high.
Okay.
Guards count for way less than civvies. I was talking to somebody who had a different, even worser problem than me because they wanted to ghost it. And there's a tutorial that pops up when you get seen for the first time. And the issue with that is that when you try and ghost it on your first playthrough, what happens is every time you get seen, the tutorial pops up and you have to mash through it before you can load your game. And that was the state of their entire playthrough, is that every time they made a mistake and a character saw them, the tutorial would pop up and go, hey, you've been spotted. Here's how to deal with that, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, bad design.
And it's interesting because Dishonored 2 does not have these problems. Not nearly as much. One, people learned from Dishonored 1's bullshit. And two, they added a way to non-lethally choke people out after they've already discovered you. Basically, you parry them, and then you can choke them out from the front. But the important thing is not necessarily the specifics of my problem with the game, because those have been well documented. And it's very interesting because it really goes into three groups. One is people that can intuitively either understand or at least feel like the kind of specificity that is invisibly being put on you. There's the people like yourself who go, okay, well, I don't feel any of that shit, but I can understand why this lack of clarity can lead to this type of behavior. And then there's the third group of people who go, I don't know why you give a shit, just go through it, whatever, get whatever ending you, who gives a shit. And there's no common ground on that first and last group. There's nothing to be done. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Paige just accidentally threw the dog's pineapple directly into the dog's face and it bounced off.
Okay.
He's fine.
Okay. I would say that you said the important part. I would disagree and say the important part is the vomiting and the not breathing. That sounds like the important part to me, because
that's the fun part of OCD, where you fight against your own ritualistic compulsions. It creates an anxiety response.
Yes. Now, I have no idea of knowing how deep your magical thinking goes, and I can only imagine.
Okay, I can tell you. Oh, actually, I'll remind you. When Paige once dried the dishes and let them sit and dry. Sorry, she did the dishes once and let them sit in a dish drying rack, and she went to bed. I secretly got out of bed and rewashed all the dishes for like 2 hours and dried them to like an impeccable level of dryness.
Yes.
And when she asked why I had done that, I said, well, because the mold would have come onto the dishes and given us AIDS.
Yes, exactly. Now, but that doesn't inform, because... But that doesn't inform, because what I mean to say is, that could be a mild, like, that could be a mild, like, irking that makes you go do that, or a severe compulsion, but we don't know, right? What I mean is...
well, I have the other one with that.
Okay.
Which is the part where I saw the house centipede, and I thought it got into my cans. So I got up naked on my bed and just was screaming at it until it came out of the wall.
Still not getting at what I'm talking about. Because what you're describing are problems that you fabricate and then solve. But that's not at all what I mean. What's happening here is we are seeing what occurs when you don't get to solve your problem and you don't get your way. And what I don't know, and what I don't know if you know, is what happens when you're unable to fix the thing that is wrong. So breathing and vomiting are symptoms, but what else is there? How bad can this get, right?
That's the worst. And it doesn't correlate to the actual severity of the problem. It correlates to how much you're unable to deal with the ritual. Yeah. So a really good real life example that I'm sure everyone can actually relate to is that the last time me and Paige were in Japan with my pal Fuggins, we had gotten an Airbnb, right? And when we were leaving, we dropped a piece of luggage down the stairs, right, on the way out. And I was like, and we had to run to catch it. And it was like 5 in the morning, right? And then, so we're on the way to the airport, and I'm like, well, it was my job to lock the door. And I can't remember locking the door. Can't remember. And we're on the way to the Osaka airport with just enough time to catch our plane. And then we're getting on a 16-hour flight. There is no chance of going back to that house and fixing it. And the answer is I'm going to be really anxious for a very long time until I convince myself that, no, it's probably fine. I had to have locked it. Right? Okay. But that was something where I don't have the knowledge in front of me. Right? With the Dishonored thing, the reason why it was eliciting such an extreme response is that I'm holding up my keyboard right now. Literally, all I would have had to do to make the bad feeling go away is hit F9.
Yes, right. And this is...
And I'm... The extreme physical reaction is not the anxiety from the event. It's the anxiety of forcing myself to not do a trivially easy action.
Correct.
That would just make it all go away.
That's the part that I'm fascinated about and I want to know is if you were not... If the kitchen was locked and you could not get in to then relieve the air-dried dishes of their mold, what happens next, right?
I would not eat off of them until I fix them.
But what if you were forced to?
No, you can't. What, you're gonna force me with a gun to eat off the dishes?
Well, yeah, okay. Or like, but you know what I mean? Like what happens if you're unable to do the ritual that makes no sense to make you feel better, and like you're in an uncomfortable state, and you're forced down that road. You know, what if we Shutter Island you?
Yeah. Now, granted, I should mention that the centipede story and the dishes story are the pre-vitamin pat, so it's never gotten that bad since.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 7 years ago, right? Yeah.
Okay.
That was a long time ago, but yeah. So there was a bizarre sense of like intense catharsis, getting to the end of that level and seeing the low chaos. As angry as it made me, because I felt like the game lied to me by implication. Because the only way to deal with exposure therapy on these kinds of ritualization things is you have to get through the whole process and see that it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
That nothing bad happened.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular, let's use the dishes for an example, and if I wanted to break it, I would have to have eaten off the plates while upset, and then a day or 2 or 3 would have had to have passed without me feeling ill, and then I would have been able to lock in like, oh, that was not real. So I had something similar in my youth when I failed a math class in high school, where my brain said, if I don't do good on this test, I will be homeless. And there's steps in between, right? But
Sure.
right? It's
Sure.
I'm just gonna be the downward spiral of my schoolwork.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Checks out.
And
Yep,
then
makes sense.
I was so anxious that I flunked that math test. And my parents were like, do better on the next one. You just go to summer school. And I did not become homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, that, evaporated on that one.
Okay.
The issue with like a game like Dishonored is really specifically, the best example is that gentleman who got stuck on that tutorial prompt, is that because they give you the little check mark at the end that says clean hands and
Mm-hmm.
ghost, you never actually get to see that it was fine. So when somebody told me a few weeks ago that, did you know you can kill 20% of all people in every Dishonored level and it still counts it as no chaos? I'm like, no, I thought it had to be under like 5. Because I would never have reached the end of that situation to see what the actual numbers are.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, it's the part where like the placebo starts to like again cause physical reactions that I'm like, that's so like what is the limit on that discomfort?
Oh, there's no limit. I remember seeing, I think it was a TikTok, and it was this lady. It was like, haha, let me tell you what it's like with OCD. When I was driving and I came off like a dirt road and hit the pavement, that bump when you
Mm-hmm.
go from dirt to pavement,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't paying that close attention, so I thought it was a person. So I've been just doing loop-de-loops on this block to make sure that I didn't run anyone over.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Okay.
it's infinite. It's infinite. I once described on this podcast many, many years ago, or maybe it was the old podcast, OCD is fun because it's this cute little game where you get to make up little rules for yourself and follow them forever. And there's no limit to how many little rules you can make for yourself. It's very distressing.
Okay.
And the creation of this series has been was basically, I don't know if I even described it. I played the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous video game. It was like a CRPG based off like a D&D style system with a really in-depth character creator.
Mm-hmm.
And you rest and you regen your spells. And it took me 4, maybe 5 hours to get through like a 90-minute tutorial dungeon, because I was like auto resting after every fight and refused to use any spells. And I went through this whole thing not using a single ability and just using essentially auto attacks and just min-maxing every single goddamn encounter to the mat. And it was miserable. It was awful. I had no fun at all. And I'm like, this sucks and is stupid.
Is there any like, I mean, I know you've only done one, but it's like, do you get any kind of like catharsis after it's done?
Absolutely.
Like I've confronted the beast.
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like tomorrow, I'm actually going back to Dishonored 1. I'm gonna keep at it until I either beat it or feel that this particular goblin is cleansed. Right? And then I will move on to something else. I have a huge list of games that I have either been unable to enjoy or have totally dropped because of minor, not actually real problems. And one of those actually it wasn't one of my Mind Goblin streams. It was just me playing Mass Effect, where I had been having an ongoing argument with my chat because I had loaded in an old Mass Effect 2 save and thus started at a higher level than normal. So everyone says, put it on hardcore difficulty. It's the new normal. So I did that and would run into these tough situations in which I was not having fun. And then said, well, if I'm not going to play it on normal or hard or whatever, what's the point of even playing it? And then I read that article about that piece of shit who was like ashamed of his son for playing Miles Morales on easy. Did you see that article?
No.
Oh, it was this dude who was playing Miles Morales with his kid and banned like Roblox from the house because it wasn't teaching the fucking lessons he wanted. And the kid was playing Miles on the easiest difficulty. And so the dad's like, okay, we can try normal now. And the kid tries it on normal and beats a couple levels. And he goes, see, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that more fun when it was like harder and, you know, you could do it? And the kid was like, yeah. And then the dad walks away and turns around and sees his kid deleting his entire save file to restart it on super easy because he had more fun that way. And it's like, oh, I feel resentful and like, why can't he? And I'm like, oh, okay. And I've been playing Mass Effect 3 on narrative mode since. Like that, like I have always been the person like I should always play on normal or hard because that's the way it should be played and that's how I should get. And now I'm like, oh, fuck it, whatever. If I'm not, I'll turn it down to baby diapers. Give me my baby diaper gun. I will throw my dirty diapers at the Reapers, and I will defeat them. I don't care.
How old was the kid?
I want to say like 10 or something.
Because that makes a huge difference too. If you're being fucking Bean Dad.
It was absolutely video game Bean Dad.
Oh wow.
Video game. I'll find this article for you. Oh wow! If I type in Bean Dad video game, it's all CSB 101.
Okay.
God, what was it? Video game.
Because that's an interesting thing. Like at a certain age, like he goes back and just fucking restarts it. Like fuck off. It's not what he was having fun
I might be
with.
able to find it.
Okay.
My son. The way my kid plays video games pisses me off. September 16th, 2021 at The Escapist. Yeah, this is the article.
Boo-hoo for you.
Oh man, it's got Miles Morales and Roblox. So the more choice thing isn't even that all the shit about Miles Morales. It's if given the choice, he would play Roblox, a game filled with player-made content of varying quality. Blah blah blah. But what I found most distressing was that he would just hang out in virtual playgrounds using his avatar to fall down mountainsides, dress up in costumes, or run around aimlessly in superhero-inspired worlds. I banned the play of Roblox in the house. I saw it increasing my son's sense of apathy towards meeting challenge or adversity head-on, qualities I had hoped to instill in him. And it's like, oh wow, imagine if your kid wanted to join theater.
Wow.
What a fucking asshole.
And then to broadcast this to the world, standing on a soapbox to show them the teaching moment that you just had.
And they try the teaching moment here is that it's like, well, I'll just have to deal with it, even though my son is a filthy casual, ha ha. And it's like, I don't think that's fooling anybody, dude. I don't think your shitty attempt at humor is over you saying I resent my child because he enjoys things differently than me. So I read that article, and that night turned Mass Effect to baby mode for babies. Like that goblin just got slayed for free.
Interesting.
Because spite's much stronger than whatever's going on up here. But yeah, no, I have a huge list of things for this goblin shenanigans. I got a bunch of CRPGs. What have I? Oh, hold on. What do I got in this? I got. Let's pull up this list. I got Celeste is in there.
Oh yeah, okay, right.
strawberries.
I forgot the fucking strawberry problem.
Right.
Ugh.
I've got the Metro games in there because you have to. Your good bullets are your money currency.
Okay.
Let's see. I got XCOM, Pathologic, Neo, and every single game from Trails, etc. Yeah, so I might throw up on stream. It's possible. I wonder how many people are showing up to these to be like, I hope he vomits.
Every single one of them?
Oh, no, come on.
This is what...
No, come on.
This is the content you're selling.
You would... No, nobody would do... Yeah, Subnautica's on that. Let's see. But regardless, anyway, so yeah, this week's gonna be more Dishonored. I played Metroid.
Are you gonna
Metroid's
act
good.
like people are not showing up for Parf Barf Sat?
I have to actually be... Wow, that's pretty good. I have to actually be legitimately very thankful as the primary reaction was something that was wholesome to the point where it made me a little uncomfortable, where I went to check the YouTube comments on the video upload, and like 95% were like, oh, wow, this is really good. Good for you, man. Oh, you did it. Oh, I'm really proud of you. And I'm like, shut up. I don't want, I'm actually kind of creeped out by this. I don't know how to handle it. It's much more positive than I'm used to on the internets.
You're overcoming your weaknesses.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll shit myself on the next one. Tune in.
That's a good... At the very least, get some X-Lax in you so that it's ready and waiting to go.
Oh, that's just a bad idea. I also played Devotion, that horror game from the Taiwan that got super banned by the China.
The one from the Taiwan, I remember.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like 3 hours long. It's really good. Not scary at all. Like, not just as somebody who has played like 500 horror games. Like, legitimately, like, not scary at all. Very creepy. Very creepy. Sad more than spooky.
And critical?
Like,
critical of the China? In some ways, or whatever?
It has nothing to do with the China. It has
No?
nothing to do with the
Its
China.
content
Nope.
wasn't why it was banned?
No, the reason why it was banned was that they had, like, a placeholder texture that was like... PM of China is a Winnie the Pooh that somebody found.
It wasn't actual in-game content. Okay.
No, well, I mean, it was literally in the game.
But like it was yeah, okay. Intended.
It was a hidden texture. The actual content of it is actually fantastic, and if I remember correctly, the reviews of it in China prior to its banning were actually very positive. No, it was just because of the Winnie the Pooh.